up today, the worst mass shooting in US history. At least 50 are dead and 53 injured after a terrorist opened fire in a nightclub in Orlando. President Park Geun-hye is set to call for communication in a speech at the official opening ceremony of South Korea's 20th National Assembly. Plus, South Korea's foreign minister is in Moscow for talks with his Russian counterpart on North Korea's nuclear weapons program and other issues. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Monday, June 13th here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, President Park Geun-hye will speak at a ceremony marking the opening of the 20th National Assembly later on this Monday morning. The president is expected to call for better communication directed towards opposition lawmakers who now make up the majority in the new parliament. Kim Jeon starts us off.
President Park Geun-hye is slated to make her fifth speech at the National Assembly Monday on the first day of the new parliament. She's expected to emphasize good governance through bipartisan dialogue in an appeal to the main opposition Minju Party of Korea, which now has a parliamentary majority. The opposition is pressing the Park administration on several contentious issues, including the government's plans to restructure the shipbuilding industry. The party is calling for a public hearing on the government's unilateral decision to rescue one of the country's biggest shipyards, Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering.
The president should come up with a good explanation to the Korean public about this issue. If not, we'll have no choice but to raise it in the National Assembly.
Another hotly disputed issue is the Minju Party's proposed plan to raise the corporate tax to 25% from the current 22%, which the party says it's necessary because the profit earned by rich companies does not trickle down to the masses. The ruling Saenuri Party, however, disagrees with the Minju Party on both proposals, saying they could strain corporate investment and thus job creation.
Have you even gathered the related facts to ask for a public hearing?
In addition, the Saenuri Party is likely to try and put its labor restructuring bill up for a vote once again this term, after failing to get it past the last National Assembly. Meanwhile, the Minju Party and the minor opposition People's Party of Korea are also expected to call for a thorough investigation into the damages related to toxic humidifier sterilizers sold in Korea by a British firm. Kim Jeon, Arirang News.
And just to let you know that we will be bringing you live coverage of the official opening ceremony of the 20th National Assembly from 10 a.m. Korea time this morning. That's in about 4 hours from now. In other news, Korea's three biggest shipbuilding companies have all finalized their self-rescue plans, but some experts say the success of these strategies will still be heavily dependent on the future demand in the industry. Our Kim Jong-soo has more.
Korea's three major shipbuilding corporations, Hyundai Heavy Industries, Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering, and Samsung Heavy Industries, have won approval from their creditors and the Ministry of Strategy and Finance for their individual self-rescue plans. Hyundai Heavy's rescue plan is worth 3.5 trillion won, or $3 billion. The company plans to sell off its stock investments, lay off more than 10% of its workforce, and sell affiliate companies, including its investment banking division. Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering's rescue plan, worth $4.5 billion, will see the company sell off all 14 of its subsidiaries and reduce the number of operating docks from 7 to 5. Under Samsung Heavy Industries' $1.3 billion plan, the company will cut its workforce and sell off non-business assets, including the Samsung Hotel on Jeju Island. The three rescue plans, worth a combined $8.8 billion, are expected to help the companies regain their financial stability. But some experts say it is too early to determine whether the plans will actually work, as demand for new ships has been on a constant decline. Global ship orders have fallen to 77 ships for the first quarter of this year, which is a 71% drop compared to the same period last year. Domestic ship orders have fallen by an even greater gap of 94%. In light of such troubles, credit analysts have cautioned that continued sluggish demand could lead to an even more serious drop in the credit ratings of the three already struggling companies. Kim Jung-soo, Arirang News.
ByungSe is in Moscow for talks with his Russian counterpart in the first official visit to Russia by the South Korean foreign minister. Discussions will revolve around North Korea's nuclear weapons program and a possible summit between Seoul and Moscow. Russia is a member of the stalled six-party denuclearization talks and one of 5 veto-wielding permanent members of the UN Security Council, which makes it a key player in efforts to quell Pyongyang's nuclear ambitions. Now, Yoon's counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, is expected to touch upon the possible deployment of the US THAAD missile defense system to South Korea, a plan Moscow deeply objects to. During his 2-day stay, Seoul's top diplomat will attend a Korea-Russia conference on politics and economics and visit a Hyundai motor plant in St. Petersburg. He will then head to Bulgaria on Tuesday to discuss bilateral ties and coordinate policies on North Korea. Chinese authorities have reportedly detained a suspected North Korean spy on allegations of smuggling. Japan's Yomiuri Shimbun reported Sunday the arrest was made in early June in Dandong, a city next to the North Korean border. The authorities seized about $4.5 million in cash and a number of gold bars from the man's house. The exact charges have not been disclosed, but sources say they are most likely related to contraband listed as part of UN sanctions on North Korea. The arrest was made a few days after Lee Soo-yong, the vice chairman of North Korea's Workers' Party, returned to Pyongyang early this month following a rare meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. South Korea is extending a joint operation to crack down on illegal Chinese fishing in the Hangang River estuary. Authorities say there are still around 10 Chinese fishing boats in the area, which means they will likely have to continue the operation that started last Friday. So far, they have seized a 50-ton Chinese boat and arrested 7 Chinese fishermen. The crackdown targets Chinese boats illegally fishing in the neutral waters around the mouth of the Hangang River and involves the South Korean Navy, Coast Guard and the UN Command. Neither Korean nor foreign ships are allowed to enter the waters without prior consent from either of the two Koreas. Now, it's the worst mass shooting in US history. 50 people have been killed and at least 53 injured in an attack at a gay nightclub in the US state of Florida. Police killed the gunman, who was identified as Omar Mateen, inside the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. The suspect was a US citizen and son of Afghan immigrants. NBC News reports that Mateen called the emergency services before the attack and swore allegiance to the Islamic State militant group. ISIS later claimed responsibility through its news agency, saying one of its fighters had carried out this awful massacre. Florida Senator Bill Nelson says links with ISIS have not been confirmed and that more details are needed before reaching conclusions. And US President Barack Obama has condemned the mass shooting in Orlando, describing the attack as an act of terror and an act of hate. Let's take a look at the statement he made.
Today, as Americans, we grieve the brutal murder, a horrific massacre of dozens of innocent people. We pray for their families who are grasping for answers with broken hearts. We stand with the people of Orlando who have endured a terrible attack on their city.
Obama called the shooting an attack on all Americans as well. He ordered the flag at the White House to be flown at half-staff until sunset to honor the many victims. French President François Hollande has expressed his horror at the killings and said that France fully supports America at this difficult time. Pope Francis also expressed his deepest feelings of horror and condemnation and denounced the senseless hatred of the shooting. UEFA has warned the football associations of England and Russia that they could be kicked out of Euro 2016 over fan behaviour if there is further violence. The European football body issued a statement after appalling scenes of violence inside the Stade Velodrome marred the end of the 1-1 draw between England and Russia on Saturday. You're seeing the video of the fights there. So far, a number of arrests have been made in Marseille, while one England fan was reported to be in critical condition after being attacked by Russian thugs. Disturbances haven't been restricted to Marseille either. Clashes also erupted along the Mediterranean coast in Nice on Sunday after trouble involving fans from Poland and Northern Ireland. There have also been reports of violence between far-right fans of Germany and Ukraine in Lille. Now, prosecutors are preparing to call a Korean executive in charge of Volkswagen Audi Korea's product certification division as part of its growing investigation into forged emissions tests. The Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office says the executive will be summoned later on this Monday for questioning. The man, who prosecutors declined to identify, will be first treated as a witness but could later be tried as a defendant. Prosecutors allege Volkswagen Audi Korea submitted 48 doctored reports on vehicle emissions tests from August 2010 until February of last year to meet local standards. They suspect that 606 out of 956 vehicles they confiscated recently were imported into Korea without undergoing proper environmental inspections. Other related officials will also be summoned this week. Now, refrigerators and air conditioning, life without them would be very hard to imagine these days. But centuries-old Korean cooling techniques served many of the same purposes. And now the know-how from more than 1,000 years back still has practical applications today, as our Kim Mil-gyun reports.
Around 1,500 years ago, ancient Koreans created these hokbingo to store ice frozen during winter. These hokbingo were mostly tunnels dug deep underground. Their ceilings were built by stacking stones in an arch, and a hole was created at the top for ventilation.
The round surface allows for good drainage, and its streamlined shape makes it easier for air to flow through. The structure itself is favorable in storing ice for a long period of time.
Sometimes the ice remained frozen up to 6 months. Even when summer temperatures reached 32 degrees Celsius, the inner temperature of this hokbingo remained at 11.5 degrees. Recently, such advantages of the ancient icebox have merged with modern technology. A research institute in Daejeon created underground storage based on the scientific principles of these hokbingo to store liquefied natural gas. The institute was able to save about 34% of its annual energy consumption. Contemporary air conditioners that operate without wind combine aspects of this hokbingo's airflow system. Some observers of the union between old and new technologies say the key to slowing climate change and energy consumption could be found in the wisdom of our ancestors. Kim Mil-gyun, Arirang News.
Now, music composed by an artificially intelligent composer is now available for download in the Korean music market. Although it still has a way to go before it attracts a major fan base, the program shows it might not be long until technology catches up to human musical ability. Our Park Se-young has the details.
These students are presented with 2 songs. One was created by a real person while the other was composed by a computer. Only about half the students could sort out which was which. The program, called AI Composer, uses deep learning and an evolution algorithm. The computer analyzes the input and combines it to produce thousands of songs. Then it picks the best ones.
We developed the program after we were inspired by how the human brain works when composing music.
The music created by the artificially intelligent composer has already been released for download in Korea, though it may have some catching up to do before it has fans fawning over its compositions.
If the computer were a student, it would be at the beginning stage of its education. I believe it has the potential to grow.
While there's lots of room for improvement, the research team expects artificial intelligence to catch up to human composing abilities in 3 to 4 years. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Monday morning here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you, as always, for watching. We'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts, and we hope your week is off to a wonderful start. Until next time, goodbye.